What do I think of journalists? Because they have to make news in order to sell papers. So if they find an incident which isn't going to quite make front page news, then they've got to turn it into something which is going to attract the public's interest anyway. So maybe they get flack for doing that.
It doesn't bother me because I'm not, a star being sought by the press or anything. But I mean, if you've been reported on, I mean, it can be really bad news.
You have to betray people, don't you? Because you say to people that, I won't put it in the press or something like that, and you actually do, don't you?
You're right.
I mean, they do it, don't they? If they're like against black people, then they'll show that in their writing and in their work, won't they?
I just think it's a very interesting job, and it's something that intrigues me. I just like it.
They have a habit of asking awkward questions. Obviously, they like to find out the news, but I mean, some of it appears to me to be nosiness, and no, I don't think much of them, I must admit.
You would never think of being a journalist yourself?
Never, no.
I've always imagined sort of a man in a raincoat with a paper and a pen and that, So I thought a journalist sort of looks like a detective.
Scout! 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 Yeah, leave it out. That's just native violence. Violence? Where? Limited.
Right. Great, Barry. Great human interest. But we got to get the baby story.
I'll try, Harry, but it's not going to be easy. Gordon Bennett.
Hello?
Hello. Is that the Picket baby's mum? This is Barry Blockhead here at the Morning Mule. And I'm doing a story on the home life and background of the famous Picket baby. And I wonder if you care to answer a few questions.
I've got nothing to say to anybody from the Mule.
You've written nothing but a pack of lies about this dispute.
Well, if you don't tell me anything, I'll just have to make it up, won't I?
I think first of all we have to tackle this arrogance that abounds in our profession, this right to know, this belief that we have the right to intervene into private grief, intervene into mining communities, and go there and rubbish communities, gay communities, women, the miners' wives, black people in the inner cities. That we have a right to do that and not in some way reap a reaction. And it's incumbent upon us as people who are a part of the wider community to make sure that coverage is fair and balanced. Because if we don't, we're going to get half bricks thrown at us when we turn up in the inner cities. You've got to make sure that you're prepared to go to your chapel if your proprietor or editor seeks to doctor your copy. I mean, 12 years ago, the union certainly didn't have an image as an anti-racist, anti-sexist trade union. And so I wasn't attracted by a range of policies that reached out to me. The union's changed considerably since then. We're now going to have an ethics council which will in some way make up for the fact that the press council is a lame duck. And we're going to have this campaign for real people, which is about exploding the myths, the stereotypes of gay people, of black people, of women, of working class people. And then when I was working in Fleet Street on shifts, at the Daily Mail, in fact, that's how I spent my misspent youth. An example of my misspent youth, working a few shifts on the Daily Mail, but short-lived because I ceased to work there on the night that Terence May was murdered in Thornton Heath. Now, the subs had come up with, the backbench, quite an unsensational front-page headline on this incident. And I was astounded and shocked to find the editor, David English, come in, roll up his sleeves, intervene, and make sure that what was an uncontroversial headline and fair headline was changed to a headline that was emotive and had racist overtones. And you could have cut the atmosphere with a knife in that newsroom that night. And I know that next morning we'd not have contributed to the harmony in Thornton Heath, an area with racial tensions.
Good yarn, Barry. Glad you didn't let the facts get in the way.
We think that media workers should be challenged and made to think very seriously about their responsibilities to the public that they portray and who read their or consume the product of their labours. the action of the NUJ has shown that there is a belief in this country in public sector broadcasting, and people actually do take that seriously and believe very strongly in media freedom. So that I think that it shows both things really, both that the government will try very hard and has the power to ultimately sort of control what goes out on our screens, but also that there's a very sort of significant mood amongst people that shouldn't happen, and I think that's the most sort of instructive and positive thing that's going to come out of today.
The amazing thing is this is the first time there has been a massive national stoppage about an issue of press freedom, about an issue of censorship. It will happen again, I'm sure, but we have united all of the broadcasting journalists in a way which I did not believe possible, and which makes me very proud and which I find very moving. Every single broadcasting journalist in Britain today is making a protest. Some of them are taking 24-hour stoppage. Most of them are doing that. Some of them are doing less than that, but everyone is protesting and everyone is united. Now, the effect of that, Mark, is to raise a public debate on a level that has not been done before in this country. Press freedom has been a fringe issue before, something that you do on, the Guardian agenda page, or something which is discussed on Newsnight occasionally. Now every single newspaper, every single media outlet has been discussing it, and it is absolutely crucial that we don't let it rest here. The BBC has an honourable record, but I'm afraid it's a record which people look back with nostalgia on. I think that the supine performance of the Board of Governors has revealed and told us a lot about the BBC, things that we've suspected and which the NUJ has been talking about for a long time. What's the character of the BBC? What sort of people run it? Are they representative of the mix which is now our society? Why aren't there more blacks and why aren't there more women in important places in the BBC? These questions have now to be asked, because by asking those questions we maybe get some of the causes for the mess we're in today.
It's been very interesting that we've suddenly found out about this filtering mechanism, that's suddenly become public, the filtering mechanism whereby information about Ireland is removed from the screens before it gets there. In the same way, there's filtering mechanisms for portraying a particular worldview about women, about black people, about homosexual people, which it probably isn't conscious in the same way as those secret guidelines for terrorism, but it doesn't need to be, because the people who work in the media all agree about certain assumptions about those particular groups.
Ariel knows you haven't paid your union subs for 15 months.
Be realistic, I got finance problems, girl.
Hey, Harry, the boss wants you.
Well, I wonder what my lord wants.
Come, here you are, Hardness. I've just had the most amazing idea. I'm going to introduce Bingo to the mule.
You mean bingo?
Yeah, Bingo. Come.
Right, yeah, Hard-Nose, I'm Brigadier up your new owner, and I've just had the most amazing idea. I'm going to introduce Tits Bingo to the mule.
Tits Bingo?
Yeah, Tits Bingo. It's for the less literate punter. Instead of numbers, we use different sized...
Okay, Hard-Nose, I'm Big Bob Mashballs, your new owner, and I've just had the most amazing idea. I'm going to introduce £1 million Tits Bingo to the mule, and that's not all. I'm going to turn this paper into the rightest, randiest, raunchiest read in recorded history, and that's not all. You're fired.
Fired? You can't do that.
Oh, yes, I can. I'm doing away with your job altogether, and I'm going to replace you with this sniffer dog.
But that dog couldn't possibly do my job on its own.
You're quite right, Hard-Nose. To do your job, the dog will need this 5-gallon lunch bucket.
Oh, Vera, no, I'd like to pay my subs.
This dispute has very far-reaching national implications. The unions see it that way, so does the management. Whoever loses here is going to lose an awful lot more than merely the battle of the RMB. Because we're talking about standards, we're talking about breadth of coverage, we're talking about the local in local radio. Without that, to quote a local comedian here, Don McLean, it'll be just a gramophone.
BRMB promised you and the rest of the people in Birmingham and the West Midlands a local news service just 18 months ago, and it got its contract back. Now it's not doing that. It's not going to do that anymore. And really we need as much support as we can, because our companies say they can keep us out for a year and a day, And the faster we get this moving, the better.
Come.
Good morning, Mr. Mashballs.
Good morning to you, but don't stand on ceremony. Call me Big Bob. I'd like the workforce to look on me as a friend, not an enemy. What's this? Hopes the introduction of sniffer dogs, reinstate hard-nose and blockhead, or you will stop the launch of 1 million pound tits bingo. Would you stand in the way of progress, girl? Do you have any idea of how enormous I am? Do you realize I just have to snap my fingers and I can have you crushed like a cockroach?
The way women are treated generally at work is largely a result of traditional attitudes about women and their capabilities. When, for example, the budget came out and we got a national story up, one of the girls rang up and said, you know, you're excluding half the population there by saying it's a budget for the average working man. And so this guy on the phone, he said, yeah, listen to it, and then put the phone down and said, some stupid bloody bitch has just been on the phone saying that we're being sexist. Now, his type of attitude perpetuates the opinion of women being second-class citizens, and therefore they have to overcome more obstacles to get promotion or pay rises. It's important for women to be fighting their case in the union because basically they're the only ones that can do it.
Are you trying to destroy the mule? Do you realize this dispute is costing this company millions of pounds? Are you mad? Would you destroy yourselves? Okay, I'll suspend the use of sniffer dogs and reinstate hard-nose and blockhead, but don't go thinking you've won a victory. I couldn't let you deny the British people their new-look mule for the sake of a couple of sniffer dogs.